This is VOCM Open Line. Call now to get in the queue. 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's your host, Brian Callahan.
That's me. Good morning. Happy Tuesday, and thanks for tuning in to Open Line. I am indeed your host, Brian Callahan, along with the steady hand of producer David Williams back here, there in the cozy confines of the control room, working his magic, taking your calls, get you in the queue and on the air to discuss any number of the plethora of important issues percolating in the public domain. How's that for a Tuesday alliteration? Completely unscripted. And the numbers to call in the St. John's metro area, 709-273-5211, or long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM. That's 8626. And our email address, if you are so inclined, openline@vocm.com. And as I have to remind you and the viewer, listeners and myself a lot, I'm doing my best to get through the emails. Of course, with everything going on right now, it's the quick and most efficient way to get the message out there. But getting it on the air is the trick, and that requires your phone call. So as I say, I will get through your emails, but one can only appreciate and imagine the mass of them I've gotten over the weekend and trying to catch up on them, and I will. And I'll respond as best I can. So it's indeed, first and foremost, sincerest of thank yous to the one and only Linda Swain for jumping in while I was away for a couple of days. Never easy to just pop into the maelstrom of what, especially with everything going on these days on this program. So thank you to Linda. No problem for her. No sweat, she would say. First one to say. So it's indeed a sticky one out there today, and by all accounts, it will be a wet one as well. There is a special weather statement, I should say, right off the bat, out for the Avalon Peninsula. So good chance of showers throughout the day, but then this evening we're looking at possibly 20 up to 40 millimeters of rain, beginning around or after supper time and continuing into the early morning hours tomorrow morning. So, not for the first time we've weathered some heavy rain, so judge yourself accordingly. The good news is this is coming just amid a fire ban for these parts due to the, quote, very high risk. So some fortuitous timing there, I would suggest, and that should dampen the risk somewhat, of course, but that's just me saying. Until it's officially dampened, we'll wait for that call. And let's see, we're back over the $2 a litre mark for gas here in the metro area today. That didn't take long. So that roller coaster ride continues. And speaking of roller coasters and white knuckle rides, you may have seen the latest dash cam video of a near miss on the Trans-Canada near Bellevue on Friday. Happens more often than anyone can imagine. Ask anyone who travels the highway with any regularity, and they'll tell you these happen with frequency, regularity, like you wouldn't believe. I mentioned as much last week, talking about how often drivers will just take those chances. Blind hills, blind corners, excessive speed, solid lines. Some, I guess some value their lives and the lives of others a lot less than others until it happens. And then you wonder what you were thinking, if you are so fortunate to be able to still be thinking. And I have no idea what happened to cause yet another crash this morning on the Veterans Highway near Bay Roberts and North River. I'm told, I understand it is moving again now. The highway has reopened. But I do hope we eventually find out, with all of these incidents on the highway, an official cause, to come on and say this is exactly how it happened. Communicate it to the public so we can understand it, appreciate just how easily and often these things happen, the risks that people are taking on a regular basis, putting everyone's lives at risk around them. I do my best to keep a good distance, try to always have space, like freedom ahead of me and behind me on the highway. And if it's not like that, I'd just soon pull off, grab a coffee, wait till the traffic clears and have some space. Because obviously the more cars that are around you, the better odds of something happening and something going sideways and wrong. So anyway, that's a big one, and it drives me, no pun. So the Blue Jays are back at it tonight after a day off yesterday, and they open a series at home tonight against the Kansas City Royals. Royals are in last place in the AL Central, but they're on a bit of a heater themselves. Certainly a team Jays should beat if they want to keep pace. anything below 500, I suppose. But they have been, as I said, the Royals been hot themselves. Jays are 2 games back of the third and final playoff spot, but also now behind 3 other teams in that pursuit. So, and just quick check in Little League World Series. I love watching it. Loved playing baseball as a kid, and just imagine on that world stage now at that level, at that age. So a big comeback win for Canada, represented by Vancouver, of course, at the Little League World Series yesterday in South Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Come back to defeat Panama 3-2. But they'll be up against it tonight against South Korea, who shut them out 7-0 in their opening game. But Canada's they are pretty confident going into this one. They think they've figured some things out, so we'll have to see what's going on there. Okay, so look, I'll just briefly mention, make no mistake, when it comes to tariffs and trade with the U.S., the gloves are off, and it is on. And while the Prime Minister, displayed a measured sort of, as I mentioned earlier with your VOCM mornings with Jerry Lynn Mackey, Carney clearly watching his speech yesterday, there's a keep calm and Carney on approach here. But, of course, by all accounts, Ontario's Premier Doug Ford didn't get the memo, or is employing his own hard-nosed pushback after Trump got personal, basically, invoking Ford's predecessor and late brother, Rob Ford. He went there. Not overly surprising, of course. So, look, a lot of back and forth between the two of them yesterday. Really just a sideshow, and really you have to ask, is this where we want to go with such massive stakes for both countries? I don't know if it's some kind of strategy to rile the president even further to see if he just literally breaks or what happens, but it'll only ramp up further today when the Prime Minister is expected to announce what the latest retaliatory tariffs will look like. He has said, of course, it'll be a dollar-for-dollar thing, and they know, all of this gets under the president's skin. And like I said, it could be part of the strategy, make him lose his mind, and more so than he has, I don't know. I admit, though, being a little nervous, given it's Trump, when he talks about the consequences will be far worse. I hope he's still just talking about tariffs, because clearly he has inserted, whether it's him or whether it's Lutnick or whoever else, any of his soldiers, they've been sort of inching into the Canadian sovereignty thing again, whether it's Governor Carney or whatever other terms he uses, trying to dictate who we can and can't have trade deals with. Going there, you can see why the Canadians sort of withdrew. It's just can't be a starter. It'll eventually erode things. They can see that happening. You let them go there, it's a slippery slope. And then we have the U.S. comparing us to China in trade, while we compared the United States to Russia. So that's where we're going. Yikes. And also, just asking, do we have a plan or a backup? If this goes, God forbid, any kind of military sort of, look, I know it sounds, but what do you put past the President of the United States these days? What else do you do when you know you can't trust the other person? And contrary, I should mention too, contrary to news of talks breaking off, even as Carney was speaking yesterday, there were all kinds of sources confirming that the trade rep, U.S. Trade Rep Greer, and Dominic LeBlanc, our lead negotiators, were talking. We're still talking, reportedly yesterday. Good sources saying that they were actually still at it. So is it a lot of just bluster in the front and all the big talks still going on? Who knows? It really feels like there's no turning back now, though, at least not for the next 2 years, at least. And that's regardless of the midterm elections. Not while Trump has executive powers, right? And look, there's a lot on the Churchill Falls file of all the complexities. I will say this, and we're going to get into it. I see we've got Gabe Gregory there from 2041 Group, one of many people who are certainly adding their expertise and their experience and their analysis of the so-called MOU2, if you will, to the discussion here in advance of the debate in the House of Assembly. 4-day debate. We can talk about whether or not you think that's sufficient. But of all the complexities and uncertainties that we have going on, one thing is for certain. Newfoundland and Labrador has never been in a better negotiating position when it comes to this deal, when it comes to this file. This project, the need for it, it's in every federal talking point right now. Not just Quebec wants it done right now. If you listen to Carney yesterday, it's clear they want it bad too. Rarely have I heard so many references to St. John's and this province in a premier's speech while he wasn't here. while he was somewhere else, let alone at this critical time in our provinces and country's histories. You know, it was a major subplot of yesterday's speech, and a shot across the bow of the U.S., yes. You know, knowing the world is watching, Carney, right off the top, mentioning Churchill Falls and the importance of that hydroelectric energy project, playing it up big time, not just mentioning it, but talking about its importance to powering the country, the independence and sovereignty of our energy resources and how important it is to us. That hand in hand with the other announcements that have been made, whether it was the 6 icebreakers yesterday and for Quebec Shipyard, you know, the kinds of things that can allow us to survive without the U.S. They're making no bones about it. So we're going on the offensive, and I love it. The message being that we're moving on. We can sustain and survive, masters of our own destiny, won't be deterred or worried or scared. Here's how and why we can move forward without you. And, you know, it also serves Carney's interests on a couple of fronts. It serves two purposes, really, for him. It certainly helps the Liberal candidate in the upcoming by-election in Quebec there, and also somewhat of an endorsement for Premier Frechette. Clearly, standing right next to him yesterday for this big shipbuilding announcement a month before provincial election. So, you know, proportionality matters here, right? Size matters, if you will. And the parallels are quite notable. Our situation with Quebec is not unlike the David and Goliath battle that's going on at the international level, i.e. U.S. and Canada. And I would invite your comments most certainly on that. And, you know, look, as for this new MOU and MOU2, which we're going to get to just coming up to this first little break here, I just had to get a few things off my chest, I got to tell you. You know, but you and I may not understand it all, of course, but should it all be, well, yes, it should all be put out there in the public domain and let the public experts and the non-experts at least see and discuss its elements. You know, it needs to be a public discussion. You know, talking about the complexities of it, but there are enough knowledgeable, learned people out there, such as the Gabe Gregorys and the Des Sullivans and the you know, the Greg Roberts of the world, who have some insight and some intellect when it comes to this, and every viewpoint should be thrown into the mix and discussed and dissected. You know, and whichever experts made the determination, last point, after reviewing all of this, you know, the ones who, you know, have directed the Premier, give him the best advice and said, yep, this is now the best we can do. Whichever experts made that determination after reviewing it all and decided this is in the province's best interest, they, of course, have to be questioned about their conclusions. I'm not talking to figureheads, not the heads of, not the expert, not the panel that was there to provide some oversight. I'm talking about the independent expert panel that was put together. Those people, those members should be in front of the House of Assembly or wherever. They, of course, have to be questioned about their conclusions, which is what's informing the Premier's or government's decision. So, going to cool my heels on that one for now, I think. I think we should well. I heard the Finance Minister, Craig Pardy, mention yesterday, really, September 14th, the middle of September now, just 3 weeks away. That will be the time when, you know, all our doubts and skepticism and criticisms can be aired and either put to rest or, who knows, maybe murky as ever. You know, we just need to know everything that we want to know. And will there be a vote across party lines? I don't know. Is it going to be the same old, same old? We have a debate and then we have a vote. And there's still people who are upset with it. I mean, are there out clauses for us with this deal? And over and over and over and on and on and on it goes. Okay, I'm going to take our first little break. We just a couple of callers, 2 or 3 callers there, and we're going to get right to it. I had to get a few things off the chest after a couple of days away. I hope some of it made sense. If not, give me a shout and let me know, or certainly your opinion on all of these issues, which, again, we need to debate in the public domain, and who knows what comes out in the wash, but ultimately we need some answers, and we want some clarity before any of these massive decisions, which are before us right now, are made. All right, Dave, my brain fog, hopefully it goes away soon. Might have something to do with the humidity out there this morning, too. Not that I'm complaining. It was only a few weeks ago we were worried summer was over. Not a chance. Let's take our first break of the morning, and we'll come back with your calls and anything you want to talk about here on Open Line. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the program for a Tuesday, which I have to keep reminding myself. Let's go to line number 1. Gabe Gregory, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, sir.
You had a nice break?
I did. Family time is critical and a little clearing of the brain. So yeah, absolutely, I appreciate that. It was really great.
Okay, well, thanks for giving me the opportunity this morning. I've had a week to review the MOU2, as I'm going to refer to it. Mm-hmm. And, when you get into these details, you realize very quickly that, MOU2, similar to MOU1, is not as being advertised. So I'll speak about, the first major component of MOU2, which is the renewal of the existing Churchill Falls plant energy contract.
Right.
When this, to expire in 2041. I'd like to stay to that topic, Brian, because there's so much going on here that for your listeners and for the public, it'd be nice to just talk about that one big issue.
Yeah,
I'm going to start by talking
that.
about the energy. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I appreciate that. In journalism, we try to stay on focus. If you throw too many into the mix, it gets off focus. So more power to you. Go for it.
Okay, so in regard to energy volume from the existing Churchill Falls plant, our government claims that we're getting more energy. That's not factual. The extra energy that we're getting is from the Gull Island development, if it happens, and from wind development, if it happens, and marginally from the upgrades of the Churchill Falls plant. Okay? So we're not getting any different energy volume in MO12 than we had in MOU1. If you recall, the IRC made a very specific recommendation to government on this. They said that, the existing allocations did not provide Newfoundland with the necessary energy over the 50-year term to see its industrial development, and it said that it was unacceptable. So here we are with MOU2, exactly the same allocations as in MOU1, and there is a restriction there that says that Newfoundland, if Gull Island, if Quebec decides not to build Gull Island, the CF energy to Newfoundland will only increase by 300 megawatts over 50 years, currently from 525 megawatts up to 825. So there's a very specific restrictions here. There are no restrictions on the allocations of energy to Hydro-Quebec, but there are very significant restrictions on the energy coming from the existing plant to Newfoundland. And there is no more energy in MOU2 than there was in MOU1. So people should be very clear about that. In regard to pricing, if I can go on.
Yes, certainly go on.
The pricing schedule was outlined in MOU1. It was 1.63 cents going up to 37.3 cents over 51 years.
Right.
In this MOU2, there is a schedule very similar. The price is somewhat higher initially, but it's considerably lower later in the contract. It ranges between 1.8 cents and 29.2 cents after 51 years again. So when you add up the nominal payments in this, people would recall that in MOU1, there was 194.7 billion to come from Hydro-Quebec. From Hydro-Quebec. In this contract, there's 185.2 billion. That's in nominal dollars. Right. But when you present value them, which is the important financial indicator, is the present value, not the nominal dollar value. Right. The old value is 33.8 billion. In this one, we're going to get about $4 billion more at 37.8.
Right.
So there is somewhat more value because the revenue stream has moved ahead over the 51 years to a marginal degree. But what's missing is the same problem we had with MOU1. There is no index to electricity pricing, market pricing, anywhere in the contract. There is a tie to cumulative consumer price index over time. But if we stay in the range of 1.6 to 2.46 inflation over time, the payments will be exactly as they are spelled out. I think it's Annex D of MOU2. So really there's no escalation or market pricing for Churchill Falls Power in this MOU2, same as MOU1. And in that regard, the Independent Review Commission they said that the pricing under MOU was complex, it wasn't defined, and it was subject to a lot of risk. And it inferred that the pricing could be more simplified if it was tied to some other indice. And we had the expectation there'd be an indice tying it to some market pricing, like in New England or in Ontario or in some competitive electricity market. But that is not the case. They didn't specify an index in the IRC report, but there is no market pricing in this MOU2, any different than in MOU1. So there's a big failure here because we're not going to capture the value of energy as it increases over time. We're only going to get the payments that are specified, and they're predetermined. Okay? So you heard Mr. Craig Pardy, Minister of Finance, yesterday on your program, and he was talking about how Newfoundland is going to get $2.7 billion in 2041 from this contract. Mm-hmm. But what he's not telling people is that what are we giving up to get the $2.7 billion? And if you inflate the current value of electricity, which is 16 cents currently, by the inflation that occurred in the last 50 years, which is in the IRC report, there's no reason to think that inflation for electricity is going to be any different. In recent years, it's currently running even at a bit higher rate. So if you project out what's going to be in 2041, market pricing at that time is going to be somewhere, if their IRC reports of inflation are correct, and I believe they are, there's going to be like a price in the market of 29 plus cents per kilowatt for electricity. So when Mr. Craig Pardy says we're going to get $2.7 billion, what he don't say is we're giving up $4.5 billion to get that $2.7 billion. That's our share of what that price would be in 15 years' time.
That's based on the projections. Sorry.
Yes, that's based on the inflation stated in the IRC report for electricity. Over the past 15 years, they studied it. So, and that problem just continues for 51 years. We're not able to address it in this contract. So we have exactly the same pricing problem with the new contract, MOU2, as we have with the current 69 agreement. It's exactly the same problem. We're selling electricity at prescribed prices well below market value. So it's like I said, when the old MOU1 came out, it's the same thing as people selling their home. So if you have a home that's $500,000, it's the same thing as selling your home at a discount of 2/3 to 60% of the price. So you're selling a $500,000 house for $240,000. That's what this contract is doing over 50 years with electricity from Newfoundland. That is not going to change. The term of the contract here is the same as MOU1, 51 years. It's postponed 2 years. It now expires in 2077 rather than 2075 because we've luckily gone a couple of years and learned a bit more. But the IRC, Brian, advised our government that when you have electricity like this, like at Churchill Falls, and there's no debt to service, all the energy that's created is produced for no financing cost. There is no debt on Churchill Falls. It's fully paid for, the plant is. In those circumstances, there are no electricity contracts beyond 25 years. So there is no rationale for Newfoundland to engage in a contract of 50 years for Churchill Falls Power. And even within 25-year contracts, there are renewals and reviews such as every 5 years, because people cannot predict future value of energy. That's why these contracts are structured the way they are.
That's exactly.
So, we are here with the pretense that we can predict what the price of electricity is going to be between now and 2077. That's what our contract, that's what the MOU2 prescribes. These prices are predetermined, they're established. They're not going to change if inflation stays within the range specified in the contract, which is quite likely based on my review. So what is the other thing? So in order to get this little value increase in price on Churchill Falls contract, our government has made a very substantial concession in MOU 2. And it's very complicated, but it hit me just as I got the 71-page contract committed. It's in Exhibit C of the MOU, and it's something the government does not disclose. What it does is, there's a contractual restriction put into the MOU that restricts Newfoundland's ability in any way, shape, or form to increase a tax, a fee, a royalty, or a water rent on energy from Churchill Falls. Now, we have this constitutional right and power legislatively today. And Greg Roberts has done a lot of work on this. Mm-hmm. He's been advising government that we should be using this tool to extract rents and royalties to make them internationally competitive, because our rates and royalties are tied to the 1961 lease. Mm-hmm. We have that capability today to change these tariffs and royalties, but our government is not fulfilling our economic need. They're going to renew the 60. They're going to carry on with the 61 lease. They're not going to change any water rents and royalties. And this provision will legislatively prevent the government of Newfoundland and Labrador for the next 51 years from taking any action to gain 1%, 5%, 10% of the value we are going to lose in profits from selling power at 2/3 discount to market value. There are enormous problems in this MOU 2, just like there were in MOU 1. And finally, I'd say on the Churchill Falls contract that the government claims that it secured transmission access to sell energy up to 985 megawatts at export market pricing. Okay? Mm-hmm. But we had to secure 985 megawatts to sell. Currently, as I just said, this contract only secures 300 from Churchill Falls, because the conditions are that Gull Island has to get built if Hydro-Quebec decides to build it. Okay? So if Hydro-Quebec decides to build, Newfoundland will get more energy. If Hydro-Quebec decides to take this as it is, and they have now 12 years exclusivity to decide whether to build Gull Island, okay, but there's no security here for Newfoundland. This was a big point in the IRC report, to get energy from Churchill Falls, not conditional upon Gull Island. The government has failed to do that. So we do maintain our export right, as we currently have, to export 265 megawatts of energy. Largely that could come from Muskrat Falls currently. But there's no additional access. There are very strong restrictions in regard to the clauses that require us to deal with current contracts of Hydro-Quebec and current customers of Hydro-Quebec. So we are not able to go out and offer a 200 or 300 megawatt block of energy to a competitor in North America of Hydro-Quebec. And we're not able to go out and solicit bids for energy at market prices. So we're not being, no surprise that there's lots of spin in regard to these announcements. But the facts are in the contract. And that's what people have to focus on here. Now, there is a debate coming up. Mm-hmm. We'll hopefully learn more in the debate. But it's very important for the public to demand that the government have an open, honest debate. If people are not sworn in under oath and forced to tell the facts, we're not going to learn much. We didn't learn much from the last debate, because all the proponents who were asked questions were proponents of the deal. There were no independent people that weren't involved in the deal asked any questions. So we can't get the information if we follow that same process. Yeah. Now, Mr. Party also said yesterday that Newfoundland will decide whether it is a better deal. Okay, he said Newfoundlanders will get to decide. I'd like to ask Mr. Party how he plans and how his government plans to enable the people of Newfoundland to allow them to decide.
Without a referendum. I heard that yesterday too. I wondered what was going to be added to that sentence, but I didn't hear anything added. Gabe Gregory, look, I'm past the break. It's not my decision. It's the rules of the road here. But look, all of these issues, I have so many I wanted to follow up with you, and I know we'll get an opportunity. I know you've offered to, your services and your expertise and the drilling down you've done of this MOU too. It's yeoman's work, and it's in all of our best interests, speaking of which. And like the things like the 150% on the purchase of Quebec, if they were to purchase any of that extra power, under what circumstance would that occur? I mean, when in what world would they be in that position? Like, what would be the circumstances under which they would purchase it at 150%, or would they ever? There are those kind of...
Well, first we had to get access to the power.
Yeah.
But there is a provision there where we could get a premium on certain blocks of power. Okay?
Right.
Particularly from only certain energy, though. And one component is in regard to CF energy. But there are many restrictions. Newfoundland has to give 3 years' notice in order to take advantage of any of these options to sell electricity on Hydro-Quebec's network. And they have to give 3 years' notice to get out of any. Okay? So they're very, very, precise and detailed contractual requirements and restrictions on Newfoundland.
So, Gabe, I got to get on to it. Look, let's continue the conversation as you've offered anytime this week, and we'll look forward to more, okay, as we drill down headed towards September the 14th. I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Brian. I really appreciate the opportunity that VOCM gives the public of Newfoundland to express their views. Absolutely.
You're more than welcome, and we are more than happy to do it, especially on an issue of this importance. So thank you again. Okay, Dave, let's get off and take that break. A couple of minutes after. Again, the expertise of these people who are taking the time and have the time to drill down into it and have background in it. It's invaluable. Let's go. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the program, right to line number 2. And Jerry, you're on the air.
Morning, Brian.
Morning.
First time I'm with you.
Oh, well, nice to meet you.
Yes, you too.
On the radio. Yes,
thank you. I want to speak on something that's dear to my heart. I'm calling in this morning to VOCM. I want to ask a question of the Newfoundland and Labrador mayors and councillors. Would they do a mini survey of their towns to see how many people, men, women, and children, that have cancer in their communities? That's living close to power lines, transformers, and substations. Also, for any person who would like to come on to VOCM and speak their mind on this topic, which is a very serious topic. People who live close to those power lines, transformers, and substations, Brian, also, it would not be fair if I never stated this question as well. Also, if anyone who never lived close to a power line or transformer or substation and has cancer or had cancer, Brian, I've been on a crusade for 26 years now. I've been on the line for 15 years or more.
I'm familiar, Jerry, because being in the news business that I have in this province for 30 years, I'm familiar with your crusade, for lack of a better term.
Yes, thank you. I started back in 2000 when my wife Margaret was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I haven't mourned for her yet. I never stopped. I got 9 scientists involved with me as of now. But let me go on with the story, please.
Sure.
I will never stop. I mean, I'll never quit till I die. Back in 2000, Statistics Canada in Newfoundland was in 2000. The cancer rate in Newfoundland in 2000 was 1 out of 9 would be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. today, there's 1 out of 2 in Newfoundland and Labrador. So let me see where I'm doing. When I called Newfoundland Power, because we had the high power line directly over the roof of our home, right? Mm-hmm. When I called Newfoundland Power, they did come in and do the tests on top of my house, which I was up there outside them with a camera taking pictures of the tester. And they always told me there was a 13,800 kV power line, but somebody that I can't say it, I won't say names. So it's a 25,000 kV power line that was right directly over the roof of the house, right over the center. The power lines were, and right over our home. The man from the Newfoundland Power told me that the readings were fine, nothing to worry about. But then all of a sudden in 2002, the worst kind of a winter, they moved 23 poles. Well, they didn't move the poles to the spring, but they moved all the power lines in the worst kind of a winter, 2002. One of the scientists I deal with, I asked her, I said, if they had moved the power lines when Margaret was, well, she was still living at that time, and I said, she taking and the scientist came back and said, were your wife's taking the drug called tamoxifen? The younger women take it, and you have to take it for 5 years. The chances, if you're living in a high electromagnetic field, which you were, the chances of recovery is nil. And that's the way it turned out. On the 21st of December, 2005, she closed her eyes for the last time. And let me see where I'm to. But yeah, and so, one of the scientists spoke on the air. I don't want to say her name. So she asked, how come they moved the power lines and the poles? And Newfoundland Power said, they're doing upgrading. The scientist said, you can upgrade on the same poles. So that's my story. And I thank you for giving me that time to put that out. But now I'll dialogue with you for a few minutes if you don't mind.
Yes, tell me more about, okay, so what stage are you at with the survey of communities and their mayors? This is one of those very, very sensitive and complicated topics where the scientific evidence, clearly, and as a reporter who's tried to follow these stories, trying to link it directly to someone's, devastating diagnosis and passing, and the suspicion that it was caused by power lines or transformers or being close to those power sources, especially in any community, really, consistent exposure. There are people who absolutely have no question about it, but it's still only listed really as, possibly and potentially linking it to it. There's no scientific evidence out there that still definitively will link the two. That must be frustrating beyond.
No, I can give you some that it is.
Yeah. Yep, sure.
I can give to you right off the top of my head, because and then I can read a little bit I got here for you. Yep. That'll be it. In 1974, Nancy Wertenheimer and Ed Leapier in Denver, they did a study on childhood cancers, and they had, I think it's 2,200 kids or something like that, and they were wondering why they had cancer, and what they found, and this is cited as a landmark and still today, that they found wherever the ones that had the cancer had the transformer right in their yard. So that's a true fact. And let me just go on with a couple of things. I just got a quick couple of things to say.
Sure.
Brian, in Connecticut, thank you. In Connecticut, there's a school called Slater School. You can Google all this now. If the artificial intelligence tell you that you go through. And teachers and students were diagnosed with cancer coming down left, right, and center. A very big power line right by the school. And what the school board did, they pulled trailers in front of the school, further away from the power lines in the parking lot of the school, further away to power line transform, so they could still teach the students in a safer environment. So I think I got one more. I got one more quick one.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Okay.
On the outskirts of I don't have to look at the paper for this one. In the outskirts of Vancouver, there's a hospital, and in the lab, in the X-ray lab, there was 6 young women. All 6 of them came down with cancer, and they wondered why. And they did everything. They figured, and here's what they figured out: the transformers were under their feet, under the cement floor, right under their feet. Well, they worked there for a nice few years, and they all came down, the whole 6 of them. You can Google that and find that too. I mean, this is all this statistics. It's not a cover-up. And I got one more thing. Let me see where I'm to here. Wait, I got something pretty dear to do it.
It's okay.
I'm trying to find just a second, please. Yeah, it was okay. And there's good. Okay, yeah, I would be honored and blessed if Newfoundland Power would charge me, and take me right on to the Supreme Court of Canada, Brian, because that's the only thing that's the only thing will stop me. And I guess it will stop me. Like I said, I have 9 scientists that supports me. I got one, Ole Johansson from Stockholm, Sweden. He wants to come on the Open Line show, but he's so world-renowned, he got to be called. He can't come on. He's not allowed to come on the air without a phone call.
Jerry, like you mentioned, the Supreme Court might be the only thing that might stop you. It might stop you physically, but in your heart and soul and your mind, there's nothing that's going to stop you from getting to the bottom of this, and at least, trying to find some source of, some level of comfort and admission that of what you suspect caused your wife's passing. It's I can't imagine. It would be my life's mission as well. I have no doubt. And we've done these stories where you have so many. It's almost impossible for it not to somehow be linked. We've done these stories in other communities around the province where 3 or 4 families and their children, with no genetic experience. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No,
Brian.
Go ahead. I only got a minute there. Yeah, I got to get going. So.
Yeah. So it's I have 7 cousins. Just lives 4 houses up from me. 6 out of that 7, and it's not hereditary. It's got to be 3 people of the same type of cancer to be hereditary. So all 6. There's 2 more living with cancer.
Yep.
There's 4 gone, and the father fell down going to church and his head, and he died. So we don't know if he had cancer or not. But the power line, the transformer power line, was 15 feet from a 2-story house.
Yep.
Scary. But
I hear it.
like I said, I had one more quick thing to say. But
I really got to go, but go for it. Sorry.
Yeah. Let me see. I won't give it away. I don't think. Now, they don't mean that much. I appreciate the time you gave me.
Jerry, I'll tell you what. Get back to me and let me know how your survey is going with your communities. Is that okay? Anytime this week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just what I wanted to say right quick. I have 110 towns in Newfoundland and Labrador, councillors and mayors that did surveys for me probably 15, 20 years ago, at least 15 years ago. And what they found was scary and gave me goosebumps, the same as I got when I first found out on this on my own. So they're absolutely scary, and that's 110 from Newfoundland and Labrador. So I know if they come on board, they're going to find out there's something to this.
Yeah, and you're not alone with that thinking. Jerry, listen, I appreciate the call. I'm sorry again for everything that you've been forced to go through with this and endure. Let's talk again real soon, okay? The lines are open for you anytime.
I will, and thank you from the bottom of my heart, and David as well.
You're welcome. David says thank you as well. Thank you. Good luck, Jerry. Okay, tough conversations all around. You never know. Let's take that break. We'll be right back.
Open line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network. Time for some good news.
Yes, it could always use a little bit of that these days. Let's go right to line number 1 with some good news and welcome Ali Albaraki with the Table Tennis for Hope. Welcome to the program.
Hello, Brian. How are you?
Good morning, Ali. Very good. Thank you very much that you're on the air here now because, oh, God, man, do we all need a little bit of good news. Tell me all about Table Tennis for Hope, Newfoundland.
I agree. So firstly, good morning to everyone listening across Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm really excited to be here and tell you a little about Table Tennis for Hope and what we were able to accomplish here in Newfoundland. I'm the founder of Table Tennis for Hope, which, firstly, for anyone who hasn't heard of us, it's a non-profit initiative that uses the sport we all love to support the Canadian Cancer Society. As the previous speaker mentioned, actually, nearly half of Canadians are expected to be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetimes. So this is an issue that touches almost all of us in some sort of way. And so on August 15th, we had the wonderful opportunity to bring Table Tennis for Hope to Paradise for our first Newfoundland tournament. We had over 30 players and around 45 people come out all together. And together we raised $1,507 for the Canadian Cancer Society, surpassing our $1,500 goal.
Fantastic.
And honestly, what made the day so special wasn't just the money we raised. It was seeing everyone come together as a community around a cause that affects so many Canadians. And that actually brings me something to that I really wanted people to take away from the event. And it's that the Canadian Cancer Society estimates that about 4 in 10 cancer cases can be prevented through healthy living and policies that protect our health. So whether that's protecting yourself from the sun, quitting smoking, staying active, or making other healthy choices, there are things we can do to reduce our risk. And that's why through Table Tennis for Hope, we don't just want to raise money, we also want to raise awareness.
Educate.
So we want people, exactly, education is so important. So we want people to leave our events knowing a little more than what they have arrived and hopefully feel encouraged to learn more about their health and how they can help themselves and the people around them. So I'd encourage everyone listening to please educate yourselves, talk to the people you love about cancer prevention, and if you'd like to support what we're doing, you can also learn more at tabletennisforhope.ca. And Brian, what we're really excited about is that the Newfoundland tournament was just the beginning. We hope to eventually take Table Tennis for Hope coast to coast to coast across Canada.
Yeah, you just took the next words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, I know this was the first here and your first ever, but look, when you know and you hit it, nail it around the head, right? I mean, who isn't touched by cancer? Who doesn't need more education? Who doesn't need more events such as this to raise that kind of awareness and just for healthy living habits, not just, genetic. It's unfortunate that it carries on through families and generations, but, we know for a fact that some of it is self-induced. So it's so important, the education side of it, and events like these, feel-good events, brings people together. It's not just all doom and gloom. It's this is a most horrible, the C word, I tell you. Who doesn't it affect? So, Ali, this is just such a great endeavor, a great mission, and a great plan to make it a lot bigger and better the next time.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And I also want to bring up the Claire LeBlanc Sportsmanship Award, which was given at the Newfoundland tournament. It was introduced in Newfoundland, the tournament, to recognize that table tennis is more than just winning. Claire was a young table tennis player who was unfortunately affected by cancer at just 23 years of age. Yes. So at Table Tennis for Hope, we wanted to honor her by recognizing the values that make our sport so special, which are respect, encouragement, integrity, and sportsmanship. So the first recipient was Liam Christian, who throughout the tournament consistently showed those qualities throughout, and he was always so encouraging to others, always had a smile on his face, and really represented what we believe table tennis should be all about: competition, but also community and supporting one another.
It's great stuff, Ali. I appreciate you bringing the good news today. Thank you. And more good news, I suspect, into the future with as this gets bigger and better. Thank you again for your time today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate
Congrats
it.
with everything. Take care.
Take it.
Bye. Okay. Got to have that taste of good news in there. Let's go to the news. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. Let's go right to line number 3. And Colin, you're on the air.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Morning. Pretty good. Lots of positive things in the air. Colin, which one would you like to pick out?
Well, I'm going to put a little damper on that enthusiasm. You need to curb that enthusiasm, Brian.
Trying to keep it up by positivity, but it's not working.
Yeah, I have to talk about the current president of the United States, Damien Thorne.
Go right ahead.
Where to start?
Yeah.
How about the prospect that Mr. Trump could, and I'm not saying he would, but could get involved in a military conflict with this country?
Yeah, at my peril and at my, not my necessarily desire to do so, but when you look at what's happening, the unpredictability, the uncertainty, the change of posture, no matter what happens, the last minute stuff. Look, what can you put past him when you don't trust, literally, and we know we can't, when we don't trust and we know we can't, and he solidifies that feeling every single day with what he says and does. And to what point do we push him to a point where, what's off the table? I don't know. These kind of things, I just said it this morning in the sense of, do we have a backup plan? Do we have something just in case? Have we spoken to our EU allies or any allies about what kind of protection might be there should he turn his sights this way, that way? Anyway, I mention it just because it's not out of the realm of possibility, in my mind.
Yeah, and you're not running around with your hair on fire. I can see a lot of people now doing the eye roll, that this is some woke liberal, nightmare scenario that's just, active in my head and your head. And if I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure that the top people in national security, military positions in this country are now thinking about that. Well, I would ask just about economics.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I would ask the question: who can actually rule it out? Show me where it can be ruled out, and okay, I'll cool my heels. But it's in the back of my mind. That's just because it has to be.
Yeah, this is. I think we got to dust off the playbook for the War of 1812.
Yeah,
This is 19th century talk in the 21st century, and I see nobody in the United States standing up to him. Nobody in that cabinet, from Vance all the way down to the cabinet secretaries, and all of them in there are as crazy as he is. Vance yesterday was in Maine and made these what he referred to as a Freudian slip, referred to Canada as a state of the United States. Mm-hmm. And then he laughed. Oh, that was a Freudian slip, folks. Ha 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 ha.
He insisted it was an honest mistake in the follow-up too.
Yeah, and
I believe him.
If it's not him, if it's not him, it's Hegseth. RFK Jr. is just on another planet of his own. What about the chairman of the Joint Chiefs? When Trump got back into power in his second term, he pretty much immediately fired the then current chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Brown. Mm-hmm. And he's got somebody in there now who's, I think, maybe rubber stamping what he's doing. They're doing extrajudicial killings in the Caribbean, these so-called drug boats, and nobody's saying anything. If I go out and kill somebody and I don't have justification, that's called murder. I'm going to be put on trial in front of a jury just because we live in a rule of law country, Who's going to push back against him? What if he gives an order to move into a part of Canada that he thinks now, with all these counter tariffs and potentially tariffs on energy, as soon as the electricity hits the border, it's going to get maybe a 50% or 100% tariff. What if he views the counter tariffs by Carney as a national security threat to the United States, and he decides to act militarily? What are we going to do? And I'm not running around with my hair on fire here. We have to ask that question now.
We do, Colin, and I'm not in the business of fear-mongering either. But if there was ever a time to legitimately say the risk exists, this is it. And I challenge anyone, all the brains in the emailing realm here right now, talking about, oh my God, this guy. Really? Okay, that's fine. You do so at your peril. You ignore that. You prepare. You don't prepare for it at your peril.
He puts these AI-generated images on his Truth Social platform of Canada and the United States, totally draped in the American flag, the Stars and Stripes. You know? Yep. He has said that he used the Canada-U.S. border as an artificial line.
And look, we know, right? You can't ignore what he says. You know, he often backs it up. And he's just, again, Governor Carney and his flunkies and these clowns got to get in line. And the consequences will be exclamation point, all big letters, far worse. What does that mean? That's all I want to know.
If he did do something, how would NATO react?
That's the
would
other.
NATO come to our defense?
Yep. Well, that's
we
why
have to invoke Article 5.
That's what I'm talking about, the backup plan, just in case. I mean, are we going there? Do we have those kind of thoughts going on in the Parliament, in the Prime Minister's office? I don't know, but really, I mean, of all people, they're the last ones that are going to rule it out because they're seeing it firsthand, and you can see the exasperation after what happened last week.
Look, you know, yesterday the United States Supreme Court ruled that Trump can keep doing constructing his $500 million ballroom. He totally demolished the east wing of the White House. Lower courts at the district court level, the trial court level, and the appellate court level in the United States ruled against him consistently. The U.S. Supreme Court gave him a pass yesterday.
They did.
You know? And it's just, I just find that astounding. That's something that's patently illegal. And a lot of what he's doing, if not all of it, is unconstitutional. He doesn't have the power. And it's just, he's going to do what he wants. And he's telling you, and me and everybody else, I'm the president of the United States. I can do whatever the hell I want. And he means it. You just can't shrug it off. He's crazy, he's stupid, and he's ignorant and arrogant.
Yeah, I think Doug Ford covered it all there yesterday. I don't know if that helps, but that's why I was led to believe maybe it's a strategy to just drive him to a point where it does get finally as irrational as it has to before somebody steps in and calmly walks him out or calmly takes him aside. But again, you know, we've I don't know where you go with it. It doesn't. Yeah, that's you just can't rule it out. You just can't.
We have a very serious problem here. He cut joint military exercises in the
South
Western
Korea.
Pacific with South Korea because he's pretty tight with Kim. Kim's a good guy. I see no threats from Kim. I get along really well with Kim.
Oh,
he gets
right.
along really well with Putin.
Very comforting. Very comforting for South Korea.
He doesn't get along so well with Macron and Carney, Governor Carney. You know, the question has to be asked here now. His worldview, and he has the power. He's not your crazy Uncle Leo coming over for Christmas dinner that you only see once a year, and you got to put up with his rent for 4 or 5 hours, and then he goes back home. He has the power. My question is, who in that administration, if he gives an order to move on us, who in that administration is going to push back? There's no more James Mattis. There's no more Rex Tillerson. There's no more Jeff Sessions. And I didn't agree with any of these people on their politics, but that's fine, you know. But Mattis was a retired 4-star general.
Yeah, he was right here. He walked through Barring. I walked through Barring Park with him. Yeah, which was crazy.
I see nobody in that administration going to push back. Like I said, the United States Supreme Court yesterday said continue building your $500 million, gold-plated ballroom.
And look, anyone who thinks the midterm elections are going to put any kind of a wrench in it, you're kidding yourselves. As long as he has executive power, as long as he's in power, we will be beholden, and the uncertainty will continue. So, Colin, I got to get off to the break. Do you want to wrap a quick wrap? I don't want to just cut you off, but last comment?
I think one comment. I think the national media, Carney's out, every other day now, $10 billion here, $50 billion here, and that's all good. You know, I don't take issue with that. The national media that are following him, the press corps, Parliament Hill, and others, we got to ask him that question. Yep. He might not answer it, because it might be classified.
Oh, yeah, what's the plan, just generally, right? Do you think? Yeah. Even if you can get somewhere where his mind is on it. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Colin. I appreciate it, man. We do have to discuss it. I know off the top I was kind of flip, but we have to talk about these things. Again, the more discussion, the more we can come to terms with it, I guess, and try to understand the ramifications. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Always.
Cheers. Happy Tuesday.
Thanks. You too. Okay. After the break, Dave, we'll be back with, let's see, we got Gary there on Today in History. Jim wants to talk about, on the heels of that last call, Canada-U.S. relations. And Tom Davis, Ward 4 Councillor, City Business and the Energy Deal. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the program. Sticking with the U.S.-Canada relations. And a segue, let's go to line number 2. And Jim, you're on the air. Jim.
Morning, sir.
Oh, morning. How are you?
Very good.
Yeah, what's on your mind, other than everything?
Well, yeah, everything is unfortunately a problem many of us have. Don't want to comment too directly on your last caller. Fever dreams are more entertaining to listen to than to debate with. I have a question more for the Liberal apologists. Mr. Trudeau, the second, referred to Canada as the first of the post-nationalist countries. Now, if we're supposed to be so defensive of Canada, what did he mean by that? Does the current Prime Minister support that? Do the Liberals support it? I'd like to know just so I could understand.
Well, I guess I think he called it a post-national state. The world's first post-national in a 2015 interview. Granted, that was almost 12 years ago, but... Sorry, go ahead.
Does it make it less relevant?
Well, in context of what's happening right now, would he have made the same kind of a statement, given the pressures and the threat that we're facing as in this very moment? I'm not saying, I leave it out there. I'm the moderator. You're bringing it up right now, trying to get my head around it. I would think that context is everything, timing is everything, and situations, hindsight and the current situation, may not have been foreseeable. I mean, to make that comment at the time, would he make the same comment again? And what does it still stand? And can we get him? Can we tear him apart from from his significant other right now and doing dances in the? I think it was a home hardware aisle or something. I thought I saw him doing a dance. Can we ask him now whether or not he feels the same way? That might be a great question for him if anyone can get a microphone in front of him.
Well, I'd just like to hear from the local Liberal apologists. How did they feel? I've always been a Canadian, very proudly Canadian, all my life. I didn't think it changed with the weather.
Yeah. Do you mean the weather as in the climate, political climate, or just literally the weather?
Political climate, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Political climate.
Yeah.
The terms fair weather friend and whatever insults seem to be the communication of the day. I'd just like to know, are they in favor of Canada as a post-nationalist state, or do they believe in the country as a nation?
Sure. I mean, it's a great question for them.
I don't like the nation word, but I still do.
I think I do too. I would think that the current situation, the past 10 years, or the past 4 years, 6 years, 5 years, might change the opinion of a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people saw this coming. No more than. And I say that in all seriousness, despite the unpredictability and uncertainty that comes with the current U.S. president. But did we expect him to take it to this level? Again, this was 2015 that the Prime Minister made the comment. When you say the Liberal apologist, you're referring to the current, Liberal government, or just Liberals in general, supporters?
Well, I'm using the word apologist sort of in the religious term.
Okay. The
people who are adherents to the liberal religion, regardless of what's happening around them. And with that, unfortunately, I have to say, I got things to do. I'd just like to hear the question. I'll continue to listen if somebody has a reasoned response.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great conversation to open up, I mean, he was the one who said, Canada doesn't need a like a strong identity, ethnic identity, or we don't all have to look at each other as having a shared European background or identity to be a strong nation. I guess. I mean, like I said, in the terms of what's going on right now, I find it hard to connect the two, only in the sense that we never saw this coming, and those comments were made at a time when the risk to our identity, the risk to our country, the risks to sovereignty, it's a word now in trade talks, and not as far as
okay, again, I have to say I have to get back to more important things. But
okay, sorry.
If you didn't see the risk coming from China, if you don't see the risk coming from EU, this is just one more attack upon Canada. It's nothing new.
Okay.
And to that, I'll say good day.
I appreciate it. Listen, Jim, anytime. Thank you for a call. Okay. Thanks to Jim there. Yeah, I mean, look, we could talk about China, which the risk is to every country in the world, really. They want to be the dominant force, there's no question, and they're doing so on many fronts. But in terms of sharing a border, a physical border with the United States, that's where I'd say the comparison ends, because, again, they are our neighbors to the south. We are interconnected, probably unlike any other two countries in the world. A long time ago, we accepted that, and we became arguably too dependent on it. We didn't foresee this coming, no more than probably Trudeau foresaw it coming when he made those statements in 2015. But let's face it, we didn't see this level of risk coming. The Chinese risk has always been there, absolutely. But our neighbors to the north, to the south, and talk of restricting energy supplies now, I don't know if it'll ever come to fruition. We know that Doug Ford is all over it. Whether Alberta would come on board with something like that, and British Columbia, the provinces that would matter the most in such a conversation, that would have the most leverage, that would put the most pressure. But because we definitely export most of our oil and gas right through the United States, and they love the diesel. But they also supply Canada as well with other forms. So, the question is, who will the pressure come to bear on more? And when you look at, as I said earlier, the David and Goliath example, theory might tell you, just in proportionality, it might suggest to you that the U.S. has the upper hand. But we certainly seem to be moving forward, not looking back, nothing to see here. We're going to pursue our independence interests of making sure, shoring up our independence so we're not reliant on the United States, and go on from there. Whether or not that's the best tactic, what option do we have? I leave that to you. And those last two callers, open to suggestion and comment. Let's take our break at the bottom, and we'll be right back. Let's see, Gary's there, and Tom as well. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the program. Right to line number 5. And Tom Davis, Ward 4 Councillor of the City of St. John's. You're on the air.
Good morning, Brian.
Morning.
Couple of city things. Tippy Park, Long Pond Trail. We're getting... Unfortunately, it used to be people focused on downtown as being an issue with needles and unsafe situations, but I had some pictures sent to me of one of the little huts there, and just full of discarded drug paraphernalia. And another resident sent an email to all of us, just listing off the different places, the Rennie's River Trail and downtown, and just different places that they could try and go walk with their dog. And now it's a stressful experience because they're looking down, and of course, even more concerning would be children running around. And, so encourage residents to reach out to 311 or Access and identify the places. If it's on public property, then we'll pick it up. City-owned property, parks and this type of thing, we'll pick it up. If it's on a private residence, you can still complain about it. And if the apartment owner or the house owner does not clean it up, then we will send a contractor to clean it up. If it's on provincial land, say a school, then reach out to the province, and they're responsible to get it cleaned up. Yeah, we need a bottomless pit of people to clean it up right now, Tom, because there's not many places you can go. It used to be hidden in the corners and that sort of thing. You can be walking down past a bus stop, and there it is. And if nothing else, it reminds us of how critical and how much of a crisis that we are in when it comes to mental health and addictions. Yeah, out in the Southlands Park, you got to figure, that's probably most likely people who live in a home out there. Mm-hmm. it's really hard to wrap our head around it. And again, I call on the province to reach out to the city and then other municipalities. We got to get all hands on deck and get in a room and try and get ahead of this, as because this business of circular firing squad, RNC, provincial government, municipality, and everybody's kind of shoving it around. And there is a working group, but this is a real crisis that we're in. I know the residents are seeing it directly, and we're hearing about it. But I feel frustrated that I'm doing what I can. Other councillors doing what they can. I imagine MHAs are probably doing what they can, whatever that means for all of us. But we're not doing enough. There's no debate.
So many entities are saying that they don't have certain types of responsibility or power to control it, but we need a common cause here, right? And a group effort. So no one in the group can say, well, it's kind of outside our realm or legislation or rules and regulations and on and on. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's where I am. And you need this superior government to take a leadership role. I mean, the province has got buildings full of people who are experts in this. We don't as a municipality, but we will lend where we can when we're called upon, and we're the ones hearing it from the residents. So my main message is to the province, let's get together, but also to the residents, please be careful out there. Please educate your children. And if you see something, please report it, because when you walk by it, someone else might not be so fortunate, but could end up with something stuck in a foot of a child or even an adult or an animal. So
and it may seem like a small thing, but reporting it does make a difference. And the more the reports that certain entities get, the more that gets attention. So whatever that's worth. So
absolutely. Also, a huge shout out to Michael Howard, who's been really bringing attention to the general public and to us at the city with the conditions of downtown. And again, that's what we need. We need the public to be involved, to use their voices, to use their emails, to take pictures, and also be involved in cleaning it up when you go out for a walk. Take a little bag with you, and we can all be part of the process. It's not just government's job to save everybody, but for sure, I just want to thank him for what he's doing. And he's even had a meeting with the council last week, and this is the type of thing he's holding us accountable, and that's what the residents need to do, is hold us all accountable.
Yep, I know Mike well for decades, and good on him. You're absolutely right. It can be frustrating sometimes when it's just you're not getting the results in real time. But that's not the way this works. We have to work a coordinated effort, and it's going to be gradual. And the problem is, it keeps sort of the demand or the crisis keeps outpacing our efforts. So we just got to up the effort.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the more we care, the kinder we are, and I think we can all come together and do something with accountability, and not entitlement, but contribution and service. Like it all goes hand in hand. But again, I'm looking forward to some progress in that area. I want to take the hat off now. We have a business. One of our businesses does trade shows, and Christmas at the Glacier is a big one we do, and it is amazing the degree that people are now using AI to try and scam people. It's sending emails out that really mimics the voice, tone, and almost exactly the email address, asking for a damage deposit of $150, which in the big scheme of things is not a lot of money. But, I know that other trade shows are experiencing this. I know other businesses are experiencing it. There's examples of very large businesses being scammed by being sent an email that they changed the routing information for payments, and people sending hundreds of thousands of dollars because it's just so convincing and so close. So I think the message that I want to get out to the public on this subject is businesses will not unsolicitedly send you an email saying send money, and phone calls. There was a lady called yesterday, and some things are obvious, but when I read that, could have easily come from us, and they're just basically using AI to scour the internet to gather information, to look at our websites, to look at the vendors that are attending trade shows, and then they just figure out how we communicate, and then they create that voice, and then that voice goes out. So, this message is specific to our business, but also generally speaking, it's really unfortunate because it's destroying our ability to trust when the phone rings and when we get emails. but we just need to be educated and
vigilant and everything else.
Yeah, we really do.
You know what it's like. I mean, what they do is they send these things en masse, and even if they get and the vast majority of people do see through it, but even if they get like a 2 or 3% of return, which you're going to get, right? There are going to be people who are busy. There are going to be people who are a little less in tune with the tactics that they use. There are going to be people that are going to fall for it. And even if they get 1 or 2% of that, their numbers spike. If they've sent out 1 million of these emails just mass, you can only imagine. So, they get their end worth in the end.
They do. Anyway, so that's the general thing. I want to make a couple of quick comments on the new MOU. And, I defer to Dave Hardy and Gabe and Greg Roberts and Des and these people who are really digging into the details of it. But when I look at it and I compare it to how much money we've gotten from our oil fields, for example, since discovery, around $30 billion in royalties plus, taxes and jobs and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's one of these things where we own, unlike in that case, there's multinational companies that manipulate governments who own these resources, and we still manage to get so much money out of it. And when we look at this deal and conflating and combining these baubles like the Gull Island or expanding production or now wind turbines, by putting those two things together, it really does a disservice. I mean, I know we're in a tough place, and as a country, globally and geopolitically, and just a lot of things going on, and so there is definitely a motivation to have nation-building projects, and I'm 100% supportive of nation-building projects, and I'm glad that the Prime Ministers and the federal government are involved. However, they're doing what's best for Canada. We're 540,000 people. Quebec is way more. Ontario, reality is the Prime Minister and the people at the federal level, they make decisions that are calculated to be in the best interest of the country. And so we can't be deceived by that. And at the end of the day, with the Upper Churchill deal, which is really what we all need to be focused on, as you said earlier, our bargaining position has never been stronger on that. There's no guarantees that Quebec ever builds Gull Island. Right. And that should be where our province is focused. Let's create the deal that gets Gull Island built and builds wind power up there. And I think, and confusing and combining it with this thing that we own, that is basically almost free electricity. When the price of oil goes up a dollar, we make $29 million more as a province in royalties. Yeah. That's not going to impact us at all going forward with this Upper Churchill. Quebec has gotten themselves in a situation where they've created an economy that's based on very low electricity prices. Good, more power to them. However, we as people are looking after the best interests of the Newfoundlanders and Labradorians of the present and the future need to make decisions that are difficult, just like right now, Mark Carney, when he walked away from negotiations with the United States, very difficult decision. Took a lot of courage. There are consequences that aren't going to negatively affect him financially, personally, but will definitely have consequences for small business owners and many people in this country, no matter what. And you had Colin earlier really going to the next level. There is an absence of that right now in our province. I know it's difficult. I know that these are so complicated, but one thing I will say is that the 40 MHAs who will potentially vote on this MOU, they should first of all be able to vote their conscience, but they should also be required to go to their districts and be able to have a town hall where they can explain and defend their decision to vote. Because I've been in a room many times where people making decisions, I look around, it's complicated, but because people aren't forced to have to really understand what they're voting on, you can go with the flow. You can be whipped by your party. You can trust what people are saying. But I really believe that this is so consequential. The biggest decision any politician will probably make in this province will be on this MOU in our lifetimes. And I think if they can't defend it and they don't understand it, then you have to go back to a referendum, because at the end of the day, the only people who are going to vote on a referendum are people who probably have some level of understanding, and it forces a public discourse. So unless these MHAs we can look them in the face, every one of them who will vote, no matter if they're party, and believe that they really understand this, that they really understand the complexity and the long-term consequences and the profit maximization for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, I think then you have no choice but to go to a referendum. And that's how I feel right now. I've spoken to cabinet ministers of both parties, and I really understand why, because it's so complicated. But I don't really think they should be able to make this decision unless they are to that level. My thoughts.
I agree. And look, you mentioned the MHA is going to the districts. In the back of my mind, I had if we had time, and my understanding is we do. I don't know why we're rushing, but I know why we're rushing, because it's not in our hands. But the MHA, fine, but bring a couple of experts with them. If not, a road show. Major centres, St. John's, Gander, Grand Falls, Corner Brook, St. Anthony. If you have to, if we have the time and we have the resources, go up to the coast and down the coast, down to Marystown. Up, do Springdale, go up the bottom Vista, whatever you got to do. Labrador, start in Lab West, come across up to Nain, Hat Valley, Goose Bay. We have time, and not just an MHA. Bring an expert, or actually bring a panel of experts that can educate, and then have a referendum after everybody's had their chance to have a question in a town hall. It doesn't have to be the most expensive thing. It could be 2 or 3 hours, major centres over a 2 or 3 week period. Then you'll be ready for a referendum, but that's the only time I think you would be ready.
Tony Wakem has put himself in the Premier has put himself in a position where he can't turn this down now, because he's basically more or less signed a deal. So the only way he can do what's right for Newfoundland and Labrador is to basically feel so much pressure from the public that he's forced to have a referendum, and then the people can decide. And then he's tried his best. He can try to convince us of what the best decision is, and if at the end of the day he can't, in his heart of hearts, he'll know he's done everything he can for the best interest, so he will not be remembered. Joey Smallwood can be given lots of forgiveness because he didn't know what he didn't know. But we now know what we know.
Yeah, we do.
And we've got, we had the original 69 deal. We had Muskrat Falls. Like, you can't claim you don't know about the consequences of making a bad deal. So I'll leave it with everybody, and I thank everybody. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Take care.
Take care.
Bye. Okay, let's take that next break. Let's see. We've got few callers in the room, few callers in the queue, and room for you. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Right to line number 2. And Walter, you're on the air.
And a very good morning, Brian. How are you, sir?
Morning, Walter Harding. How are you? Good. Thanks for asking.
Not too bad. I won't be long at all. Maybe a couple of minutes, that's about it.
Not at all.
Brian, we have a beautiful piece of property here in the city. I think it's maybe one of the most beautiful pieces in the city, the province, perhaps Canada, and that's beautiful Bowring Park. And I
no argument
really
on
appreciate it. What, that?
No argument from me.
No, it's just a wonderful, wonderful place to go, wonderful place to visit. When Frederick Todd was, contracted to do the trailways in that park, he worked closely with a gentleman, Frederick. That's missing my brain now. Anyway, the gentleman who designed Montreal's Mount Royal Park, Olmsted, Frederick Olmsted,
Thank you.
and Central Park in New York. So it's not surprising that you get some visitors in and they'll say, it's even though it's a smaller version, it does remind me of Central Park.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why, of course, because the fingerprints are on both.
Yeah.
I wanted to give a quick call because yesterday morning we were looking at a vehicle going around and round in the gravel parking lot, and I thought they had maybe lost a wallet or a watch or something. So when they came around the second or third time, I asked, is there anything that I can help you with? And they said, we're having a hard time finding the accessible parking. There seems to be only one space here. Now, in that gravel parking lot that you call the main parking lot, there's only a couple there, but
you mean the West End?
The ones that the city put in, so they didn't realize that if you just simply go up Park Road and turn right onto Squires Avenue, right next to the entrance to the park, there's 8 beautiful spots right there. If those are full, sometimes they are because it's right close to the entrance, simply take your very next left, and that's called McNabb's Lane, and you go right through the gate at the top of the lane, and there's a dozen more inside the park, very close to the children's playground and the duck pond, and 4 of those are accessible with vans. So, and if you wanted to go to the bottom of the park with the duck pond and the Peter Pan statue down there, you have almost a half a dozen in the bottom parking lot. There's 2 in front of the Bowring Park Foundation building, as well as another one in by the greenhouse. So there's lots of parking, but of course, if folks don't know that it's in there, it's just well to have none. And if by chance you're going to the bungalow, there's another half dozen parking spaces up there, just to let folks know. Because we have a lot of newcomers to the city, and of course, a lot of people visiting for summer.
Absolutely. I thought there was a little grid online on the city's website somewhere. I thought I saw that somewhere. Someone pointed it to me because this question came up before. But you're right. You wouldn't know to go up McNabb's, up past that and through the gate, because the gate is sometimes closed, and even though it's not prohibited to go there for that reason. So depending on what's going on, right? But anyway, great point, Walter. Yeah, absolutely. There are plenty of those spaces. And again, if there's an event at the bungalow, you can get those too.
Yeah, you know what? And you make a good point there when you said about online and stuff. I'll be devil's advocate, and I will say that not everybody is as comfortable with the online stuff. So if they're listening in their vehicle now or listening at home now they know where they can go park, and their troubles are solved.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't mean to suggest online is the be all and end all. It'll save us all, because no question, right? Not everybody is going to go there. You're driving around. What are you doing? Checking your phone for a grid? Probably not going to happen. So signs are good.
Got it.
Yep. Great. Thanks, Walter. Appreciate it.
Have a great day. Thanks, Brian.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Okay, and let's see. One more before we get to the news at the top of the hour. Gary, you're on the air.
Well, good morning, Brian. The last time I asked you about something in history, you got it on the first word. So.
Oh, the Indy 500. Well, when you say start your engines, that was an easy pickings for me, I think.
So let's see if you can get this one. Somewhere over the rainbow.
Well, that is clearly The Wizard of Oz, and that one...
Yeah, that's right. It debuted today in theaters in North America on this day in 1939.
Yeah, that makes it, oh my God, do the math. 61 plus 26 equals 87. So she's 87 years old. Is that right? Math off the top of my head? I was never good at math. Not my strong point.
I have no idea. All I know is I bet Brian's going to get real quick today, too.
Yeah, follow the Yellow Brick Road. I took the family to see that a few years back at the Mirvish Theatre in Toronto, and it was fantastic, I have to say. That's a memory we'll always have.
It's one of the most amazing movies, because we watch it like it's a movie. It starts on black or white and then goes to color.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, otherwise you can't see the Yellow Brick Road.
That's right, and back in the days, we the first time we didn't go to the theater when back in those days we watched it on TV for the first time. It was black and white always through, but then now we got TVs, and I got to watch it on a smart TV now, and I couldn't believe it. I didn't know it would color in there until I watched it on the smart TV.
The way they redo the old movies now with color, I'm on the fence. I either love it or I hate it, depending on the movie. Like, I don't want to ever see Casablanca in color, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, but
just off the top of my head.
After everything that everybody talking this morning, we need to lighten the load up a little bit. So I'm glad you got me on when you got me on. So about the Wizard of Oz, because that's a movie for all kids of all ages.
It really is, and the message in there too, right? There's a lot of great messages in there. Wherever you want to go with it. It's funny you mentioned that, Gary. I got a couple of emails here today just talking about the heaviness of the topics. When Colin and I were talking, it's not something, obviously we're talking about wars all the time, but boy, oh boy, it's hard to avoid, because it does affect us in many ways. And when you have the Prime Minister mentioning Newfoundland and Labrador in his opening comments with regard to the disputes right now with the United States, it's hard to ignore some of these realities. But I appreciate your call, talking about things like the Wizard of Oz and the Indy 500. I'll take that any day of the week.
It's because, one more, I got to tell you another thing. I got to sell my house on Friday, so I don't, I'm homeless now. I'm not homeless. I'm living in a senior's home. I'm not homeless, but I got to sell my home. And I used to own a house in Roberts Arm, and oh man, the people in that town, they did a lot of renovating to all the homes. I remember that. Well, it's like they all got brand new homes, but they got all new sidings on their houses. Yes. They fixed their houses up so much. I thought, this town is really beautiful now. Wow.
Well, it's funny how it can come back full circle. It might not be the original residents and the liviers who have the same houses, but there's a lot of being bought up in and around Newfoundland and Labrador these days. It was a big thing around Nova Scotia years and years ago. I mean, they're all bought up by by Americans down around, say, the South Shore and through the Annapolis Valley and that sort of thing. It's beautiful country, and they'll move up here. How those relations will continue because of the amount of Americans who summer in different places, or just not even summer, have moved, north before the winds of change that we're currently dealing with. So, Gary, I appreciate the call, man. Always.
One quick thing. Kudos to Linda Swain. You gave her a lot of credit for standing in for you. She did wonderful Friday and Monday yesterday. She did wonderful filling in for talking to the people of the province. So tell her that we love her too.
I'm going to throw that out again. The wily veteran that is Linda Swain. She can roll with any punches. So there you go.
Okay, you have a good day.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Okay, let's get off to the news. Yes, absolutely. Thanks again to Linda for filling in for the last couple of days. If you didn't catch the top of the show, made sure never, ever take that for granted. Always. Appreciation is a big part of life. Let's go to the news. We'll be right back.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the show. Yeah, just listening to Sarah Strickland, human index of 34. That's up there, probably the most we've seen this year, I would suggest, but makes it tricky and tangly for dressing for work. You better bring a sweater, because as much as I love the air conditioning, it's sticky outside, so backup clothes for indoors, weird. Let's go to line number 6, and Tony, you're on the air.
How are you, Brian?
Goodbye. How are you?
Yeah, good. Long time no talk.
Yes, sir. It has been. Hope you're well.
Yes. Oh, yes, great. I just got away from politics for a while. I had a lot of things to do, so.
Oh, my God. Can I get that get out of free jail ticket? I'll borrow that from you, but go for it.
Yeah, but anyway, congratulations on your new position.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And I just wanted to talk on this MOU, but first, I like this. I'll let you get into the politics, federal and for and United States, but not right now. But someday we'll have a good conversation. When Carney ran the last time on an election, he was saying about how he was going to take care of the United States and how we were going to have a great deal. But after the election, right up to a month ago, every time he was asked, about the tariffs, and he said we got the best deal ever. 85% of what coming across the border is tariff free. So I don't know what has changed, because every time he was interviewed, that's all he asked. That's what he answered. So I don't know what's changed since then. So we'll have to wait and see, but I'd like to get in more into that eventually.
Yeah, just one quick question on that front. I know Pierre Poilievre has been asking for kind of like we want here with the MOU. Just get it into the House, all the details. Tell us what you've been negotiating, or at least what the breaking points were, some of the details. I don't know how much of that can be. I do know the Prime Minister has said he will brief opposition leaders, I think today at some point. I'm not sure if that's before or after he announces what kind of retaliation we're going to inflict. But I assume you're on board with that. Would you like to see it all like a good transparency? Sorry?
Yes, I would like to see everything, because everybody's behind. Everybody's behind. Even the oppositions are all behind. We just want to see where we're to, what's going on, what's offered, and that's all we want, right?
Yep. Full disclosure, as much as we can. Absolutely. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, this MOU. I heard now that it talks about, and I hear there says no escalation clause, but. Finance Minister was on yesterday and said it was. In fact, he was giving an announcement about every few years what we were going to go up, and also. What I was looking at, there was the Gull Island thing.
Yes.
That's just many other things. So, we had Gull Island right now, and Quebec needs the power. And we're going to, the jobs alone, that's not counting what we're going to get for that, but the jobs alone is going to create, billions of dollars every year. And then the investments that spin off with businesses and the workers, but, in their home, building home and everything else. We're going to make a lot of money off of that, just the spin-offs alone. But, I can't wait now for it to get in the 14th of September to really know what's going on. But the MOU, Gull Island, in the old contract in 2024, I was watching, I guess you were too, in the House of Assembly. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions was, and the answers was Gull Island, about what time were they going to start development. And they had basically one of the ones that was negotiation. She said that Quebec had 20 years. As long as they showed interest in it, they had 20 years before basically they had to develop it. So, to me, we had 20 years, and there was no power coming to the island. There was more power none going into Labrador. So basically, and they couldn't tell us how much percentage we were going to get from Gull Island, and not only that, they had the right. Quebec had the rights. They give them the rights to hire all the people that was there. So I mean, right then we were going to lose billions of dollars every year just because of the hiring alone. And so, like, I don't understand why they're coming out and complaining now, because right now we got 85% as a hiring in Gull Island. We're going to hire, so that's all of our workers that's going to be there. It's going to be contributing not only the jobs alone, but all the investments they're going to make in this province. And that's what I look at. And the mining alone, we got 4 mines now lined up to start, and a $19 billion loan there just before 2041. So I mean, the money that we were going to lose and the money that we were just before was going to be enormous. We're talking about billions of dollars a year that we would lose because of it under that old contract. Like, you know, and this is what the opposition is on about. You know, it don't make sense to me. What we're going. You know.
Yeah. No, sir. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, look, you've nailed it. I've heard completely different and conflicting on Gull Island, and I'm going to leave it to the experts. I've read it, and the numbers get tangly as far as the net present value goes, or say even the nominal values. And we were told the current government said, you know, they weren't really interested in the nominal value number when the Liberals floated to 225 or whatever it was, and now it's 273. But that's being played up quite loudly compared to the, say, 36 versus the 49 billion, right? Tony, I was going to my train of thought. There was something you mentioned there. Oh, damn. Sorry, so many numbers and that sort of thing.
I almost had it.
Yeah, I almost had it then. I was going to ask you a question about that. Darn it. Okay, you go ahead. It'll come back to me.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, I mean, I remember back in the Liberals were pushing to get this, you know, because we were rushed and might not get a contract and we might lose everything they had. By April, they wanted this all gone through. Now, all of a sudden, now there's lots of time and we don't have to rush in this. But, you know, everybody was phone saying we got to do this and we got to do it. And I never heard anyone complaining about that old contract that we had, that they were offering. Not like, you know, like the ones that's coming on now. And a lot of them, like last week was Liberals, they were saying, you know, complaining about the contract we got now, which we're going to lose billions of dollars a year if we went ahead with that old contract. With nothing, like, I can't see anything that was into it. Like, they couldn't promise us that they were going to get power going to the mining, so there's 19 billion more, not counting, like I said, the workers. And Gull Island developed, you know, same thing.
It gets confusing even more so for me when you factor in the people who know the most about these things, such as the CEO of Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro. You know, this throws a lot of uncertainty and doubt into it for a lot of people. When you have that, when Jennifer Williams said that the 2024 MOU was the best we could do, and now that turns out that's not true. So, you know, I mean, well, at least as far as the current government is concerned, and their prognostic or their statements about this current, that it is in the best interest. The other thing, of course, is, and I heard the Premier mention, that these final agreements won't go before an independent panel like the 2024 MOU went. Are you okay with that? And are you also okay with the now no referendum?
Well, I was for the referendum if they didn't want to do what they're doing now. We got 40 members, as I heard Joyce saying last week. And I hope there's no politics playing in this, but there probably will be. But anyway, at the same time...
I hope not to.
Yeah, I mean, just get in and ask the questions, because I can't wait for every question to be asked. To ask the opposition and everybody in there to ask the questions and have the people in there that can answer the questions.
I agree.
And, you know, and to me right now, you go in there and referendum, I agree with that if they had to not do what they're doing now, but we're going to be in 4 days and they're going to throw everybody, and hopefully they'll have the panels in there, like I said, not the panels, but the experts that can answer the questions.
We want we want the experts with the we don't want cheerleaders. We don't want people who are signatories to the agreement. We want the people who did the critical analysis and ultimately told the Premier, told this government that this deal is better than the last one. And that its time is of the essence, and you got to do it now, and it's going to be in the best interest of Newfoundland and Labrador. Well, you know, a rush doesn't seem like it's in our best interest given our past.
No, and I think right now, and then after this is over, the members in the districts, people got all kinds of opportunities to ask them every question rather than a referendum right now. I think this is the way to go, and I'll be asking questions. And I can't wait to let everything come out that is supposed to come out by September the 14th. And I think everybody is, watching the same thing, yourself included.
Yeah, I agree. Look, as I've said before, I'll only, say definitively about the things that we know, the things that have happened that we know in the open. There's a lot that we don't know. There's more we don't know than we do. And let's hope again, and I echo the comments of Minister Party, who did say, and I've said it before, but I mean, he said it yesterday here on this program. We need to, if everybody can cool their heels, we'll get all the answers that we need and that we want during the House debate, and we shall see.
And then you're going to have lots of, then you'll have lots of calls on your open line, and you'll also, and I mean, it'll be great to see you and listen to everybody getting out there, and we'll get that way, because there's no way to look at this contract, because the more you look at it, the more confused you get. And, lots of more question comes up as this comes. This is why 14, and up until the House, the 4 days is open, hopefully we'll get to hear all the stuff that we're going to get, and all the stuff that is going to be out there that, people get lots of questions for. And then, like I said, people go back to the districts, and they'll have lots of opportunities then people will have lots of opportunities to ask the questions.
Yep. Let's just hope the right people are there to answer them. Thanks again, Tony. Sorry.
Yes, and I just got to say that, the money, that the billions of dollars that we would have lost under the old contract, like I said, with no development, go law and anything else, compared to what we're going to get now, I mean, it's atrocious. But anyway, I think it's great to see. We're going, and I can't wait to the 14th. And Brian, you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Tony. You too. Always. Thanks again for the call. Okay, take care. Excellent, Tony. Okay, we got a couple of calls in the queue, a couple to come, and we're looking for you. Let's take our next break of the morning. We're getting into the home stretch when a lot of people kind of procrastinate, leave it till the last minute. And we get a lot of calls last minute in the last half hour, but if you want to get in, now's your chance. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the show. Let's go to PJ on line number 3. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning, Brian. I spoke with you last week, and I said I'd call back after I got a chance to go through the new agreement.
Wow, did you get through it?
I spent a bit of time to go through it and discovered quite a few surprises in there that I think population Newfoundland going to be very depressed once they get the details on.
Fire away.
One of the biggest examples in there is that the Conservatives have removed the 2% escalating clause for the Gull Island facility. And as a result of that, that's going to allow Quebec now to enjoy a flat rate per kilowatt for the Gull Island energy for the next 50 years. Precisely the same concept they had from the 1969 agreement.
And based on energy prices.
The numbers have changed.
Yeah.
The numbers have changed, but the rate is flat, and that's the way it's going to be.
Okay.
That's one thing. And the other thing to keep in mind is that, so people are going to be embarrassed, because I think most people are upset with the 69 agreement, say, well, there's no escalating clause in there. The Liberals put it in there. The Conservatives have removed it. Now, the Conservatives have said, oh, well, we added the consumer price index calculation. But what they're failing to tell you, that doesn't apply to the Gull Island facility. Right. That only applies to the original Churchill Falls facility.
That's right. It's only that power, correct.
So Quebec is going to enjoy a flat rate for 50 years once the facility is built, and that's when the 50-year clock commences. Brian, some of the information that the politicians are misleading the people on, we need to talk about. Mr. Wakeham said 85% of the jobs in the construction phase will go to Newfoundlanders. That's not the right language. That's in the agreement on page 56.
Well, the priority goes right to Indigenous peoples, right?
No, that's not what I'm getting at. The language that's in the agreement says 85% of the person hours in the construction and assembly phase shall occur in Newfoundland. It's got nothing to do with where the people are from. There's going to be tons of people from Ontario, New Brunswick, all over the place that are going to be paying their taxes in their permanent home province, not in Newfoundland. So he's misleading the people with that statement. You just go to page 56 and you can see that. Mr. Party yesterday came on your program and said, oh, he had a discussion with his wife the night before about the no escalating clause. Well, Mrs. Party knows more about the content of this agreement than the finance minister, because the escalation clause has been removed from Gull Island. So I think he owes her some flowers and an apology.
I heard that as well. Sorry.
Go ahead. The other thing I wanted to talk about, just in the sake of time, the CEO of Hydro-Quebec last week put out a press release. She said a number of things in there that are interesting, but the most important thing was this. She said, with this new agreement, Hydro-Quebec has able to get cheaper electricity than the original MOU. Let that sink in.
Yeah, that's a calculation that they made that I think, and Premier Frechette referred to that too during the ceremony down in the harbor, and she was asked about it. And there's a rounding, and then there's a calculation that comes back around and brings it down to about 5.5 instead of the 6. Is that what you're referring to?
I'm not referring to that. What she's referring to is generally she's talking about the markets, because they have to go out and raise financing to make this whole development take place. Remember, Quebec has the authority for the financing of this whole activity for the next 65 years. It's written right in the agreement. No, what they have essentially 6 cents from the original MOU for the Churchill Falls.
Yes.
And the Gull Island project is going to be, they haven't divulged it yet to the public, but I did the calculation. It's about 11 cents per kilowatt that they'll enjoy for 50 years without any increase. I mean, they're precisely doing what they did to Newfoundland in 1969. So there's a lot of aspects in this agreement that are gaps that I don't believe the House of Assembly is going to have an opportunity to address properly. And as a result, we're going to be pretty depressed in Newfoundland once the details of this come out and related to how it allowed this to happen, rushing it through. And now we have all the turmoil with the U.S., et cetera, it's even, putting more rush when it shouldn't be rushed. This is the biggest deal Newfoundland ever can encounter, and it should be addressed with. One of the things, and if you have thoughts on it, but Mr. Carney said, he's going to speak to Trump about this. What he's talking about there is that Quebec is building a transmission line to New York City. And this electricity is going to flow to New York City. That's going to encourage Trump. That's what he's talking about there, right?
That's that energy corridor. Yep.
Yeah, as far as referring it to the nation building office, one of the things you have to remember there, the purpose of getting these projects in that Calgary office is so that they can expedite the environmental consequences of these projects.
Streamline it all.
Let's not kid ourselves.
You're absolutely
right. That's what it's there for.
Yeah. No, it was absolutely set up to streamline and to fast track projects and get them past the changes that they're making to the environmental laws on that front, and we can get into that discussion if you want. But it's a worrisome thing because it feels like we're taking 2 steps back, especially on the environment front. Whether or not we're talking carbon capture and all that wonderful stuff, we'll see. There was a big announcement on carbon capture mentioned here 3 years ago. Big news conference over at the. Not the Amera, the Inco Innovation Center on Mons campus. I was there with the Premier, and big announcement, but I don't know where that's gone. And I was going to, you make the other point about Carney's comments, and what was it you asked me I was going to mention on? Boy, oh boy, a couple of days away, and my brain is in a fog.
Fair enough. There's a lot of moving parts here, Brian, but as I spoke to you last week, like when you add up the amounts that are in the 2 charts, there's $23 billion less in the current chart. That needs to be investigated. What is happening there? It doesn't make sense. The amount of electricity coming out of Churchill Falls is not decreasing going to Quebec. So why is the $23 billion less? These type of things need to be investigated thoroughly before, people in Newfoundland should be agreeing to such a project of this magnitude. And as I just go back and I'll get off the air, but the biggest thing is that they'll have a fixed rate for the Gull Island project, and I think they're going to have that for 50 years. So they're going to benefit and prosper Again, this is a repeating history. It's a cycle continues if they're allowed to have a rate that's fixed for 50 years.
Oh, I know what I was going to mention just quickly, PJ. Sorry if you don't mind. I was just going to say you mentioned that focusing on what Quebec will probably get, the 11 cents on their return. We've talked about this before. I'm loath to compare everything that Quebec's getting to what we're getting, only because we are such a small fish in that sea, and we have to at some point, even though we own the resource. We all know this. That doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the big players of Quebec and Ottawa who really feel like they have a stranglehold on this deal rather than us right now. And that's the way it feels to me, that it's the interests of Ottawa and Quebec first, us second, and I'm not going to say scraps, but I'm going to say that it's going to be a proportional calculation as opposed to it's your resource, so you should have the most of it.
But it shouldn't be that way.
Oh my God, no.
We deserve goodwill for the last type of contract, and Newfoundland needs to stand up for themselves and just go to the $10 billion. There's no good reason that Quebec got $6.5 billion of that. There's no reason. Yeah. Newfoundland is taking the lion's share of the debt for this project. Let's not forget that. People are confused because the governments are providing a lot of misleading information. The cost estimate for the Gull Island project is now listed on the government website as $29 billion. It's gone up $4 billion since last year. Doesn't make sense, but so be it. That's what they're saying. Let there be no mistake. Newfoundland is responsible for 60% of that cost. Yet, Brian, and this is my last comment,
no problem.
Quebec has 100% of decision-making authority on everything now. They even have, in the last agreement, have taken over the construction of the transmission line that was Newfoundland Hydro's responsibility in the MOU. They have full control over everything now, even the retrofit of the Churchill Falls plant. It makes you wonder who at Federation Building is awake to see and agreeing to all this stuff.
Well, I will say, PJ, we have the Minister of Energy and Mines, Lloyd Parrott, on the line waiting to go next. So I'm sure he's listening, and we'll see if he wants to weigh in on that last one on the third transmission line. Absolutely.
Sounds good. Have a good day.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Okay, let's take our second last break of the morning. And as mentioned, and as promised, and as prefaced, when we come back, the Minister of Mines and Energy, Lloyd Parrott, will be right after the break.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number one, and welcome to the program the Minister of Energy and Mines, the Honourable Lloyd Parrott, as well Minister of Red Tape Reduction, Minister of Labour, Minister responsible for Workplace NL, and the Government House Leader. Nothing on your plate, sir. How are you?
I'm very good, Brian. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. How is Norway? Or I should say, hey.
It's good, and I'm just wondering if you can hear me okay. I'm in a room here now in the middle of the conference floor. It's a little noisy, but I can hear you fine.
Your reception is better than the guy we had on from the Ghouls earlier, so go for it.
Perfect. Hey, Brian, I wanted to call in. I'd love to talk oil and gas, but we're going to talk a little bit about the Churchill Falls Agreement here now and what it actually means, certainly for industry. And, our take on this when we walk into this MOU, and it was debated fulsomely back in 2025, January 6th. And at that time, we did not feel that it was a great deal. Obviously, we sent it to an independent review panel. But I was pretty clear, in my own words back then, what this meant for mining and other resources in Labrador. So this deal is as much about upgrading Churchill Falls, developing a new resource, as it is about building a new economy. And, when we sat and discussed the magnitude of this deal and what it meant, we took into consideration certainly Labrador West, Labrador Trough, our mining operations up around Shefferville, defense, the defense investments that were going to happen in Goose Bay, and how much communities like Labrador City and Wabush and Goose Bay and the coasts of Labrador were being left behind. And this deal gives us an opportunity to move forward as a province. It gives us the opportunity to move forward as a nation when it comes to rare earth minerals. And it certainly gives Labrador West the opportunity to be on a level playing field with their counterparts on the other side of the border in Quebec and their mining operations. And when I visited Labrador back in 2025 to attend the mining conference, the first thing I noticed was the lack of growth in Labrador West compared to what had been happening in Fairmont. And it's because we didn't have access to electricity. Something that could have and should have been fixed a long time ago. Never necessarily required this deal for the previous government to do it. But, for over 10 years, we've had mining companies yelling and screaming, looking for ways to grow their capabilities. We've had new players come into the field who wanted to open mines. And as of late now with the Labrador Trough, which I will add represents about 450 million tons of ore, which is substantially billion tons of ore, which is bigger than the deposits in Australia. It puts us at the leading edge of the globe when it comes to our capability to process green iron ore. And from a big picture standpoint, the development in Goose Bay with the $8.5 billion investment from the feds, they didn't have the electricity to do it. And all you got to do is talk to Jordan Brown or Ronnie Barron, the previous mayor of Wabush, or the current mayor, and you'll quickly find out that the industrial park can't even welcome a new business up there because there's not enough electricity to do it. So when we sat and thought and talked, the first thing we realized was the previous MOU didn't have enough electricity to supply anyone with the ability to grow. So it became a key factor in what we wanted to do. And we understood that the potential that is in this province with 34 out of the 50 rare earth minerals, and certainly the green steel capabilities out of Labrador West and as far north as Shefferville through the Labrador Trough, were an essential part of this. And we determined that we needed more electricity, better transmission, and we've achieved that. So we're not trying to just get a deal here. For far too long, governments have overlooked the big picture. We're trying to build an economy, long-term sustainable work for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians that don't end when a project is over. We're trying to have the foresight to understand that we have a load of potential that we can unleash in Labrador and certainly in Newfoundland, but this helps us achieve that. And we also had to keep in mind the fact that, we are at a bad place in time in this province when it comes to our debt. We are at a crossroads when it comes to our ability to not only pay debt, but to develop the resources that are needed to support Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And this project will open the door to all of that.
Do we ever get there without the federal government's involvement when they came on board?
So I would say I'm happy to see that the federal government jumped on board the way they did. We've got one of the things that I always questioned in the previous deal was whether or not Gull Island would go ahead. There was no loan guarantees or anything from the feds. Now with the loan guarantee, I certainly believe that really pushes that project much further ahead. And when we talk about Gull Island, we're not talking about it was 43 million person hours to develop Muskrat Falls. Gull Island represents a project double the size of that. Whether it's 86 million person hours, I'm not so certain that that's the number, but the number is going to be high. 5,000-6,000 jobs for quite a long term. It's good to see the federal government on board, and it shows that the federal government not only believes in green energy, but it shows that they believe in our capability when it comes to the mining sector. It shows that they support our Indigenous population, and for the first time in a very long time, it shows that they support Newfoundland and Labrador. And if I had told you 2 years ago that Quebec, the Premier of Quebec, the Premier of Newfoundland, regardless of the stripe, and the Prime Minister of Canada were going to sit down at the same table and sign a deal like this, I think there's not very many people from Quebec, from Newfoundland, or federally that would have believed that would happen. And it's happened. It's shown that this federal government has not only an appetite to grow industry, but it shows that they believe in Newfoundland and Labrador, and it shows that they support the rest of these projects moving forward. Brian, our potential in Labrador is untapped. I mean, we have so much area up there that has not been, we haven't been prospecting up there the way we can. We've got an opportunity to extend the life of Voisey's Bay now, possibly electrify it, which will help us bring power to the coast of Labrador. We've got an opportunity to develop the Labrador Trough. We've got an opportunity. I was in a meeting a while ago, and I think this is a number that people should really think about and how we've handled things as a province through successive governments. If Labrador City and Wabush was anywhere in Asia or in Australia or any of these other countries, and they had those two resources operating for the amount of time that they've been operating, those communities wouldn't be 16 to 20,000 people. Those communities would be over 1 million people. And if it was in Asia, I would argue it could be as high as 10 million people because they utilize their resource. They do the secondary processing. And now we have a government, as you've seen yesterday, we went out with land nominations for gas. We have several companies, and the buzz over here in Norway is huge about the potential for bringing gas ashore here in Newfoundland. If we bring gas ashore here in Newfoundland, our next step will be secondary processing of rare earth minerals and iron ore in this province. And this deal allows us to do all of those things.
Interestingly enough, since you mentioned that, I'm just wondering, I was going to ask you if there's any renewed interest in offshore lands in light of the change of attitude in Ottawa.
Absolutely. And, we've seen getting through a Bay du Nord deal where we were, and very quickly in my conversations, my direct conversations, I have a direct line to the federal minister. And at the end of the day, we see a federal government that supports everything oil and gas in this province, and the whole idea that we are now becoming greener with this project, it helps. I can't even express what the order of magnitude for the understanding of how much it'll help us, but we have several super majors that are extremely interested in developing gas, brownfield, and we also have our greenfield gas greenfield gas that we have access to, and the players that are offshore now are interested in developing that, which also opens the door to CCS. So if we can utilize carbon capture, because if we start taking the gas out, then we have the ability to utilize carbon capture. We can change Newfoundland and Labrador, and we can change it fairly quickly. And it's amazing when you come here to Norway and you see the model that they use and where they are. I honestly don't know if I've seen any gas-powered vehicles over here, and they're still producing, a multitude of gas. And this whole conference is about gas. It's incredible how much they're bullish on it, but it's incredible to see how they live their lives and where they've gotten and how they've gotten there, the utilization of their own resources and their self-resilience, and it's long overdue. We have a government right now, in the federal government and a provincial government, that believes in Newfoundland and Labrador and believes we have the abilities and the capabilities to develop our own resources and to move this province forward in a way that we have never seen. And this project opens the door to all of that. And I cannot stress how important it is for people to understand that. Now, I've listened to a bunch of stuff. Obviously, I'm in meetings quite a bit, and you don't get the opportunity to listen to everything on Open Line, but I've looked at some of the stuff on Facebook. And to be quite frank, a lot of it is very misleading and not entirely true. There are some great points people are making, and you can be rest assured we're keeping notes of that. And when we are negotiating definitive agreements, we will keep all of that in mind. But as it stands right now, I strongly urge the public to pay attention to the debate in the House of Assembly that will start on September the 14th, and listen to what the experts say, listen to what the politicians say before everyone rushes to judgment about this deal, because there is no doubt whatsoever that this is a new, much better deal than what was signed previously.
Minister, obviously we're only going to have time for so many questions. Do you have a moment to wait, just hold for a moment? I'd hate not to, if you got another 5 minutes, just a quick break.
You go right ahead, yeah.
Really appreciate it, because I know your time over there is valuable. Hopefully we'll get a question in about Bay du Nord, just a quick update. But let's take that break, Dave, and come right back with the Energy Minister right after. Welcome back, and let's rejoin the Energy Minister, Lloyd Parrott, on line one, who is in Norway today, and hopefully we can squeeze in just a quick update on Bay du Nord. But, Minister, just before the break, you mentioned that the experts, will answer the questions that we want answered in the House of Assembly. Who specifically made the final determination that we should take this deal? And will those people be in the House to answer questions?
Who specifically? Well, obviously
yes.
The Cabinet and the Premier made the decision that we were going with this deal.
But based on what advice?
We will be in the House.
But based on whose advice?
Advice. So obviously there were multiple levels. We called for an independent review. We got that. We utilized that in order to negotiate. And you will find when questions are answered in the House that we had complete oversight and hands-off approach from government when it comes to the negotiating team doing what they were supposed to do without interference. We had Newfoundland Hydro board members with a team of them involved. The full board was briefed on a regular basis, as they weren't done before, which was everything before was done with a total lack of transparency under the cover of night. This is the complete opposite. We had an independent committee that was oversight committee that was overseeing the negotiations, and we are currently in a place where we are setting up the process that's going to happen in the House Assembly, but I don't think there will be any issues from the public or from the government, with the people that are provided to answer questions during that time frame. We will be very clear, very transparent, and we will allow those individuals to answer questions, unlike what happened previously. So we're excited to get that process over. But, I say to myself, I sit back and I've listened to Mr. Hogan talk about the deal and I guess his reserves on it. And if he clearly can't see that this offers Newfoundlanders and Labradorians a much better deal, I've got great questions as to how he could support the previous deal, because they were very bullish on it. We are now going to have way more jobs, way more power, and way more upside when it comes to our ability to develop the economy in Newfoundland and Labrador. It makes this deal much better on every single level. And they've got all of these questions that not only they wouldn't answer during the last go-around, but they clearly supported a pretty shallow document at that time. So we're excited to bring this to the House and get the questions answered. We do have the answers, and we feel once the public listens to not only our negotiating team, but the experts that were involved, they will have a clear picture of what this deal means for Newfoundland and Labrador. And the federal government's involvement has certainly helped that process move forward. Quebec understood that we had to get more in order to do this, and they came across the table with more, and we have a deal that we're proud of.
More for us and them. Let me ask you this. The independent review you mentioned that looked at the 2024 MOU and concluded its work in the end of April, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that determined that the
April 31st, I believe.
Yeah.
April 31st, I believe.
Okay, yeah. So the end of April. Since then, so that decided that MOU was not in the best interest of the province. Since then, 2.5 months or so passed when the big negotiations, when the final deal that this government will hang its hat on was negotiated. Will that period of time and that deal go before an independent review? Full independent review like the one that the 2024 went under.
So that this deal has been reviewed, obviously, and it's why we got where we are. We took the independent review and we utilized it as the framework of where we are right now. And that is very clear in not only the contract that has been signed, or the MOU that has been signed. It'll be very clear in the House Assembly when we answer the questions. We have taken their key recommendations and we have enforced them. So it would be my stance that this review has not only been reviewed, but I don't see that it would be necessary for another review.
Okay, but again, everything changed. Everything changed after April 31st. Everything. The federal government came on board. Now it was a trilateral situation. And the 2 months, it was only 2 months, which is 2.5 maybe, like if you're looking at till May 19th, when the Premier announced the 3-panel. My question is, will the final deal that you're ready to sign, that you're standing behind, undergo the same independent, thorough review that the 2024 MOU underwent?
Brian, what I would say to that is that as we negotiate definitive agreements, things will be reviewed on a regular basis. If the Premier decides that he wants to bring this to an independent panel, he will. I am saying that I believe that we are enforcing what the independent panel suggested, and we have lived up to that expectation.
But that was all based on the 2024 MOU, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, but not on the current one?
Absolutely.
Okay. Quick update on Bay du Nord. Can I please? Everything on track, 2027 decision? Have you talking to anyone from Equinor? Is there anything to report?
Bay du Nord is moving full steam ahead. Regular meetings with BW Offshore, with Subsea, SIA, and with Equinor. Excited for FID. I think it could come early.
You mean the FID? Just for people listening, final investment decision, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Okay, it is my honest belief that the Bay du Nord project will move ahead 100%.
Okay, and on the red tape reduction, I know you're now the minister of that. How do you do both?
Well, interestingly, Brian, a lot of it aligns. So, I mean, that's I think what the Premier's seen, that, from an industry standpoint, and whether it's small or large business, we understand the projects that we have coming in and the necessities in order to align things. So I will obviously lean on other ministers for advice from their departments as to what they see as their red tape problems. We've already brought together a group of government officials to start reviewing and looking at the next steps forward. We led the country in red tape for the last 10 years, and the next 10 years will not look anything like that. My specific department, I know when I go to conferences like PDAC or like this one, we hear continually how good it is to work in Newfoundland and Labrador, how well the government works with people. One of the things I'll say with offshore oil and gas is certainly that from discovery to production takes far too long, and that red tape has been brought in by the federal government. We've signed on to one deal, one review with regards to our land-based reviews with mining in that already. So that is a big step forward. But we need to find ways. Red tape is not just about reducing red tape for the sake of reducing it. We have to make processes better for the companies that are doing the work, and we have to understand that the length of time it takes for a company to start up and get operating in this province, small or large, has been handcuffed in the past, certainly by government, and we're looking at attracting new business to Newfoundland and Labrador. And I have said from the very first day I ran in 2019, and I'll continue to say it, two of our biggest issues in Newfoundland and Labrador are geography and population, and our best way around that is to increase our population and obviously take up more of our own land. And the way to do that is to convince people to come to Newfoundland and Labrador, invest in long-term sustainable projects, and stay here. So we have work for all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians and anyone that wants to move to Newfoundland and Labrador and live. And that is my primary goal right now. These projects, along with, I guess, attracting new business to Newfoundland and Labrador, whether it's secondary processing in the mining sector, or more offshore oil and gas, or just gas specifically. We will make those things happen, and I'm proud to take on that role for the Premier, and it's an exciting time in this province right now.
Okay, and lastly, just for clarification, when will we know all the parameters of the debate in September?
Coming soon, so we're back and forth now. There was a management commission meeting yesterday, so I've talked with both government house leaders yesterday, the official the opposition house leader and third-party house leader, so just a brief back and forth from here. So in the next couple of days, we should be able to nail some things down.
Minister, I appreciate the time. I know it's a busy schedule overseas in Norway. It's all pretty scripted out, so I appreciate you making time for the program. Yeah. Very important conversations.
Yeah. And just one final note, I'll say again, the trepidation around this deal, I get it. The public is concerned. This is a long-term deal. But we are looking out for the province, and we are looking for a deal that helps us develop the resources that we have. And if Mr. Hogan is concerned about more jobs, more power, and more economic development, then I would suggest he's in the wrong place.
Minister Parrott, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Safe travels home.
Take care.
You too. Okie dokie. What a show. Prime way to end it off, too, with the Energy Minister speaking directly to some of the concerns that are out there. I cannot possibly get to every single email and question. Please bear with me. But we'll have more time. And again, the debate is coming. Thanks, everyone, for the calls, the emails, and everyone. Dave Williams, thank you again. Your yeoman's work. Captain Sarah Strickland in the cockpit, taxiing down the runway toward the newscast. Thanks, everyone. Drive safely. Please drive safely. Arrive alive. VOCM cares.